In 1567, Hans Steininger, who once had the longest beard in the world at 4.5 feet 4 meters long, died when he broke his neck after accidentally stepping on it. It took 410 days for the Empire State Building to be made. It's impossible to taste food without saliva. This is because chemicals from the food must first dissolve in saliva. Once dissolved, chemicals can be detected by receptors on taste buds. The oldest instruments date back 43,000 years ago, which were flutes made out of bones from birds and mammoth. There is a super tiny species of antelope called the dik-dik, named after the sound they make when alarmed. The set used in the 2009 Sherlock Holmes film was reused as the House of Sirius Black in Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. Bruce Lee could perform one-handed push-ups using only his index finger and thumb. He was also known for his famous one-inch punch, where he was capable of knocking back an opponent from a distance of just 1 inch. When he was a freshman in 1987, a man named Mike Hayes got a friend who works at the Chicago Tribune to write him an article asking the millions who read it to donate 1 penny each towards his tuition. Immediately, pennies, nickels, and even larger donations came pouring in from all over the world. Bhumibol Adulyadej, the King of Thailand, was actually born in Cambridge, Massachusetts in the United States in 1927. When he was born, the hospital room that he was delivered in was briefly declared Thai territory so he could be born on Thai soil. In the early 1930s, a social movement became popular, although it eventually died out, which proposed replacing politicians and business people with scientists and engineers that could manage the economy. Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and Facebook alone have 1.2 million terabytes of information stored on the internet. Over 50% of the oxygen supply we breathe comes from the Amazon rainforest. A 102-year-old man named Alan Swift from Connecticut drove the same 1928 Rolls-Royce Phantom 1 for close to 77 years before he died in 2005. Former billionaire Chuck Feeney has given away over 99% of his $6.3 billion to help underprivileged kids go to college, resulting in him having $2 million left. As a person dies, his or her hearing is the last cents to go. All U.S. presidents pay for their own food while staying at the White House. The children's book Where the Wild Things Are was originally titled Where the Wild Horses Are. However, the author and illustrator Maurice Sendak ended up changing the name of it after he realized he had no idea how to draw horses. Philani Deladla is a homeless man from Johannesburg, South Africa, who's known as the pavement bookworm. He survives by reviewing books for people passing on the street and sells them the book if they like it. The surface area in South America is greater than that of Pluto's. In 2011, archaeologists at the Ground Zero 9/11's terrorist attack site in New York City uncovered half of an 18th-century ship, believed to have once been used by merchants. Newman's Own Food has donated 100% of its post-tax profits to charity since 1982, totaling over $400 million. Lady Gaga stars in the Guinness World Records 12 times. One of them is for including the most product placements in a video. Steven Spielberg waited over 10 years after being given the story of the Schindler's List to make the film, as he felt he wasn't mature enough to take on the subject. Graphene is pure carbon in the form of a very thin, nearly transparent sheet, only 1 atom thick, and is the world's strongest material. It's 1 million times thinner than paper, but is 200 times stronger than steel. According to the Guinness World Records, as of 2015, the world record for long-distance archery is held by a Paralympic, armless archer, Matt Stutzman. A moment is actually a medieval unit of time equal to 90 seconds. There are 40 moments in an hour. The Taxi Fabric project in Mumbai, India lets upcoming designers royfulster and completely transform taxi cab interiors. George Hotz, then 17 years old, was the first to unlock a first-generation iPhone and sold the iPhone for a Nissan 350Z and 3-lock phones. The first ever 3D feature film was called The Power of Love and premiered in 1922 in Los Angeles. Unfortunately, the 3D version of the film is presumed lost and the 2D version was later shown under the name Forbidden Lover. In 1859, English settler Thomas Austin released only 24 rabbits onto his property in Australia, stating the introduction of a few rabbits could do little harm and might provide a touch of home. In addition to a spot of hunting, by the 1920s the population of rabbits in Australia reached 10 billion. Dragonflies are one of the most efficient killers in nature, capturing their prey more than 95% of the time. According to Bill Murray, the 2004 Hong Kong comedy movie Kung Fu Hustle is the supreme achievement of the modern age in terms of comedy. There are languages without the terms left, right, front, and behind. These cultures use north, south, east, and west their whole lives, no matter if they are in their home or in the woods. The result is a compass brain. They always know how they are oriented. When a frog swallows its prey, it blinks, which pushes its eyeballs down on top of its mouth to help push the food down its throat. Christian Bale cites the mannerisms of Tom Cruise as his inspiration for Patrick Bateman in American Psycho. Cruise's intense friendliness with nothing behind the eyes became the inspiration for how Bale would portray the psychopathic murderer. 70% of lotto winners spend all their winnings within 5 years, and it doesn't matter whether they won $1 million or $100 million. When Benjamin Franklin was a kid, he used a kite to drag himself across ponds. He said it gave him the greatest pleasure imaginable. A third of all divorce filings of 2011 in the U.S. contained the word Facebook. One man was caught twice on To Catch a Predator. The second time was less than a week after his court date. For the first one, it was so soon that Chris Hansen recognized him. Strawberries and peaches in Quaker instant oatmeal are actually flavored dehydrated apples. The blueberries are flavored dried figs. January 8, 1836 is the last day in history that the USA had no national debt. The only difference between Tylenol Cold and Tylenol Flu is the box. They have exactly the same medical ingredients. You can buy miniature cows and bulls for pets, and they only grow to 1 meter in height. During the invasion of Normandy, Scottish bagpiper Bill Millen, contrary to British command, in the thick of battle, marched up and down the beach playing his bagpipes. When his unit captured German snipers, they asked why Millen wasn't shot. They said they didn't shoot because he was clearly mad. Seth Rogen paid the bills and was the main wage earner of the family by the age of 16. During the first season of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Will Smith memorized the lines of everyone in the cast. If you go back and watch closely, you can see him lip-synching the lines of whoever was speaking in a scene. The richest man in history was Musa I-131 to 1337 of Mali in Africa. He went on the pilgrimage to Mecca in 1324 with his procession that is reported to have included 60,000 men, 12,000 slaves who each carried 4-pound gold bars, heralds dressed in silks, who bore gold staffs, organized horses, and handled bags. Also, there were 80 camels, which varying reports claim carried between 50 and 300 pounds of gold dust each. He gave away so much of gold to the poor and spent so much on souvenirs that he caused superinflation and devalued the metal for the next decade in the region. It takes at least 8 bees all their life to make 1 single teaspoonful of honey. The woman who founded Mother's Day later tried to have it abolished because by 1920 it had become too commercialized. After a Soviet hostage was found dead in 1986, KGB agents castrated the nephew of the hostage taker and sent the severed organs as well as a list of other known family members to the hostage taker. The remaining Soviet hostages were quickly released. In 1916, Manfred von Richthofen was considered a below-average pilot who crashed during his first flight. 2 years and 80 aerial kills later, upon his death, the British buried the Red Baron with full military honors out of respect for his skill as an aviator. U.S. does not use bills over $100 because President Nixon wanted to make it harder to move large amounts of money across borders for drug trading. Most people dream about 5 times during each 8-hour period of sleep. Based on this number, people have about 1,825 dreams every year. There are 1 quadrillion synapses in the human brain. That's 1,000,000,000,000,000,000 synapses. This is equal to about 500 million synapses per cubic millimeter. The word brain appears 66 times in the plays of William Shakespeare.